All right, I'm not going to lie to you. Some weeks it's hard to make these running back waiver wire videos where we only have 2 to 3 interesting pickups. This is not one of those weeks. This is one of the best week 1 waiver wire videos that I think we're going to be able to get out in a very long time. We have interesting options for shallow leagues, deeper leagues, and pretty much everything in between. But before we get into it, of course, go down there, drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. By the time you're watching this, we may have already hit 100,000 subscribers, so thank you so much. I'm going to continue to try to do everything that I can for you. We're going to live stream every single day, answering questions for like 4 hours of stream until the season's over. And also, I'm going to go through and I'm going to answer the first 200 comments on this video. I'm going to try to get to as many comments as I possibly can, but I can guarantee at least the first 200. And I think that should be it. Oh, one other thing, of course, this video is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. If you want to check out Underdog Fantasy, they have a ton of cool player props every single week. I mean, you can check them out right here. And when you use promo code FLOCK, they'll match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. You'll get our 2022 fantasy football rankings. You'll get our 2022 fantasy football draft guide, which I know is a little late for that, but it's still 300 pages of information that can help you out in making some trade moves. But that should be it. Let's go through. Let's dive into these running backs. Let's start it off with everyone's favorite waiver wire pickup. Actually, I think we have someone better later on in the video, but let's go Jaylen Ward right out the gate here. With Jaylen Ward rostered in 4% of leagues on Yahoo right now. And obviously, the main storyline is, okay, Najee Harris here. Looking like we're dealing with the foot injury. And this is concerning. And everybody knows why, because this is a running back that dealt with the Liz Frank in training camp and preseason. And I have to sit here and I have to take my L like we do in every single video. And I have to admit that when we had the report coming out about the Liz Frank, we had a lot of people saying, okay, Mason, with Najee Harris, we now know that he's been dealing with the Liz Frank injury over the past 2 to 3 weeks. I said, well, if he's been playing in the preseason, I'm not concerned. How serious can this injury be if he's out there playing in the preseason? Well, serious enough for him to get injured week 1. No official report. If these are two things connecting, I'm just speculating right now based on the information that we have at hand. He went to the locker room right before overtime, never came out. But here with Jaylen Ward, if we're projecting him going forward, really the only other running back that we're going to be looking at in Pittsburgh, and it doesn't matter how far back we go with Mike Tomlin. This is a one-man running back room, whether that's Le'Veon Bell. I mean, when Le'Veon Bell gets hurt, it's D'Angelo Williams. When you no longer have D'Angelo Williams and Le'Veon Bell sits out, it's James Conner. When James Conner's no longer there, it's Najee Harris. So maybe it's not necessarily just a coincidence that all these running backs got every single touch in Pittsburgh. Maybe this is actually a coaching staff decision, and this is going to be what we see with Jaylen Ward. And if we look at Jaylen Ward, not elite in any one category, not a great athlete, not a great pass catcher, not a great prospect in general. I mean, that's why he went undrafted in this year's NFL draft. But he does have the size. He's a BMI over 31. He's a little bit of a shorter guy, a little more stocky, but based on our historical analysis of BMI and how it translates over to actual usage in terms of the workload we may expect from these running backs, I would feel comfortable expecting him to get 20 touches in a game that Najee Harris would miss if the Pittsburgh Steelers can get out to a lead early. Now, the reason he's not going to be number 1 on this list for me, and I have someone better in a second, is if we pull up the schedule that Pittsburgh has going forward. If we see Najee Harris missing the next month, I have no idea what the timetable is going to be here with Najee. Maybe he's back next week. We'll learn that later in the week. But here, if we're looking at Pittsburgh going up against New England in week 2, Cleveland week 3, the Jets week 4. The Jets are fine. But then after that, the Bills and the Bucks. Some of the toughest run defenses in the entire NFL. So I think that we are a little concerned about that, regardless of who the starting running back here is in Pittsburgh. Like I said, maybe. I mean, we get confirmation on Tuesday, Wednesday. Nope, Najee Harris is good to go. He's good to play week 2. Then Jaylen Ward, not somewhere we're picking up. But let's move on to our next guy. And our next one, going to be Jeff Wilson. Obviously here with Jeff Wilson, rostered in some more leagues. Only 16% of leagues on Yahoo, though. And there were only 2 running backs active on this San Francisco 49ers roster outside of Elijah Mitchell. Those 2 running backs were Jeff Wilson and Jordan Mason. Now, the guy that I thought was going to be the second running back on this depth chart going into the year was actually Tyrion Davis-Price, but obviously Tyrion Davis-Price sounds like he didn't have a great training camp. I mean, it was expected about the week going into the season that it was Jeff Wilson. And yeah, if we go through and look at the snap counts, even with Jordan Mason, who I know a lot of people are very excited about, I will say elite name, but even with him being active, once Elijah Mitchell went down after only playing 17 snaps, you had Jeff Wilson for 27 snaps and Jordan Mason with 0. Jeff Wilson was involved as a pass catcher. He had 10 routes run, and he also had 9 carries in this offense. Now, of course, the concern is, Deebo Samuel has 8 carries. Deebo Samuel, obviously, with the rushing touchdown, lined up as if he was just a running back. Ayuk gets involvement as a rusher here. You have Lance as a rusher, obviously. But with Jeff Wilson, we've seen the production before. This isn't a Jaylen Ward type situation. Like, if we go back to 2021, here we have a game with 19 carries. We have a game with 10 carries, a game 13. A game with 21 carries against the Falcons, where he had 110 rushing yards and the rushing touchdown. He also finished off the season against the Titans with the rushing touchdown. And if we take a step back to 2020, he was like the 49ers leading rusher here. Over the past month, Jeff Wilson in 2020 went out there at 11 carries, 16 carries, 22 carries, 20 carries, and he averaged close to 100 rushing yards a game. He had 5 touchdowns through the final 4 weeks in 2020. So I think with Jeff Wilson, he's playing in an offense that wants to run the ball as much as they possibly can. He's clearly the running back stepping up for Elijah Mitchell. Right now, we do not have official confirmation on the knee injury that Elijah Mitchell suffered, but looks like the report's saying he has a significant brace on that injured knee. God knows what that means. I think we have to sit here, wait till later in the week until we actually get the official report. But now let's go to a running back that is not a waiver wire pickup because there was an injury, just because he's the starter on his offense. Let's go over to Rex Burkhead here in Houston. With Rex Burkhead, do I even have to talk about who this guy is? Obviously, a longtime journeyman in the NFL. 32 years old at this point. We're not expecting Rex Burkhead to be an elite level athlete. But what was very surprising is with Rex Burkhead, not only did he go out there and lead this team in snaps, but he completely, and I repeat, completely erased Dameon Pierce as a pass catcher in Houston. This was not something I expected. I expected it maybe to be a pseudo committee. However, we were going to end up seeing Dameon Pierce as the clear-cut starter here and Dameon Pierce getting some involvement on third downs. I believe Dameon Pierce had 5 routes run. Rex Burkhead was 100% the passing down running back. And if we ask ourselves, with Houston, I know they played a good game against the Colts. They were able to tie the Indianapolis Colts week 1. Way better than I was expecting. But still, I think this is a bad offense going forward, going up against the Broncos next week. The Bears, then the Chargers. I think the majority of these games, Houston is going to be the underdog. Houston should be throwing the ball in the second half. So if we were wanting a running back here in Houston, we'd want the guy that has the receiving down role, the guy that is in the 2-minute drill. But now let's go down to our next player. Someone that I am not too surprised is on this list. Kenyon Drake here, rostered in 12% of Yahoo leagues. With Kenyon Drake, we really had no idea who the starting running back is going to be in Baltimore. I really did not want to tell anybody to play Mike Davis because at the end of the day, I didn't know if it was going to be Mike Davis seeing 50% of the work, Kenyon Drake seeing 50%. I didn't know if it was going to be a 65. Had no idea. Well, here, Kenyon Drake almost got all of it. Kenyon Drake, 33 snaps compared to Justice Hill at 11, compared to Mike Davis at 7. Kenyon Drake going out there running routes with 16 routes run. He had 11 carries in this offense compared to both Justice Hill and Mike Davis only at 2. Now, I understand he did not do much with them. Like with Kenyon Drake here, if you started him knowing he was the starting running back in Baltimore, hell, you still weren't sitting pretty at the end of the week with the overall total points scored. But just seeing that he is the starting running back in games where you have no J.K. Dobbins, this is going to be massive. Because going back and looking at Latavius Murray last year, who I would make the argument, I know this is a bold argument to make, but I would make the argument that Latavius Murray last season was a worse running back than Kenyon Drake just from a raw talent perspective. But he was in that beautiful, and I repeat, beautiful Baltimore Ravens situation where we know if we go back to 2020, J.K. Dobbins was the #1 running back in the NFL in yards per carry. Also, Gus Edwards was the top 5 to 10 running back in yards per carry as well that season, because this situation in Baltimore is beautiful. Like looking at what we had with Latavius Murray last year, I mean, he capped off the season against Pittsburgh with 16 carries and 150 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown. So I think that we could see Kenyon Drake as a startable option in the absence of J.K. Dobbins. But also at the same time, maybe if you get extremely desperate in a super deep league, remember, this is never going to be a full-blown workhorse type running back situation. It's always going to be a committee, even if we are going to be looking at J.K. Dobbins in the light that he is the clear blown starter, even if he is 100% healthy. I love the upside of Dobbins later on. Really hope we get Dobbins in week 2 and you never get to start Kenyon Drake. But when we have no idea when Dobbins is making his appearance, probably have to go ahead and pick up Drake here. Now, our next running back is going to be someone a part of an elite level offense that scored a lot of points. We're going to go ahead. We're going to take Isaiah Pacheco. Now, with Isaiah Pacheco, the box score is very deceiving here. Like, don't come out here and go, okay, is Isaiah Pacheco the starting running back for the kids? It was late in the game. He did get 12 carries, but he only had 16 snaps in this offense. Like, while the game was very early on, while it was somewhat competitive against the Arizona Cardinals, it was Clyde Edwards-Helaire. It was the CEH show. But in those 16 snaps, you had 12 very impressive carries for Isaiah Pacheco, and he's the clear running back over Ronald Jones at this point. That was the assumption going into the season based on the reports that we had out of training camp and preseason. But now that we actually get the confirmation that Isaiah Pacheco is going to be the second running back in terms of the guy they're looking to go with between the tackles, I think is worth a roster spot just because how dynamic this Chiefs offense is. Remember, we said the Chiefs are going to be better with no Tyreek Hill. We are loaded up on Patrick Mahomes this year. Now, I don't think if Clyde Edwards-Helaire goes down, Isaiah Pacheco becomes a running back 1 in fantasy. I think in that instance, he does split the backfield with Jerick McKinnon, where Jerick McKinnon is just the passing down running back. Isaiah Pacheco is the first and second down guy. But in Kansas City, that can be valuable. Maybe we can pick him up off the waiver wire and flip him to someone who thinks that, I mean, this is a running back that you can start every week. Now, our next guy on this list is going to be someone a part of an offense that, in my opinion, is going to have a bounce back. And he is never going to be someone we consider to start unless there's an injury in front of him. Eno Benjamin. Now, I did not know who the secondary running back was going to be here in Arizona. I did not know if it was going to be Darrell Williams, Eno Benjamin. Now, all reports in preseason were saying that it was going to be Eno, but now we get that confirmation. Now we get the confirmation that James Conner plays 47 snaps here and Eno Benjamin's playing 22. Like I said, this is not going to be a large enough role for you to ever go out there and consider actually starting Eno Benjamin in a game where James Conner's healthy. But if we do look at the Eno Benjamin profile, I mean, if y'all don't know, obviously I have a background in dynasty fantasy football. And from a Devy perspective, back when Eno Benjamin was in college, so many people thought that he was going to be the next great NFL running back when he was at Arizona State. So many people were hyped on him. He fell to the 7th round of the 2020 draft class. A lot of people were surprised by that. But at the end of the day, what is really nice to see with Eno Benjamin is this is a running back that had a 15.5% college target share. He's a fantastic pass catcher. I think that is going to get him involved every game in Arizona. Like I said, I don't think we can start him, but now that we can see that he's the clear running back too, he's the fantastic pass catcher. He has adequate size to handle work on all 3 downs. If something were to occur to James Conner, then I think you could see Eno Benjamin as a passing down running back, getting work in the red zone, and one of the best offenses in the NFL. Now, I think that's it for this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. And of course, go down there, drop a like on the video if you have not done so already. Subscribe to the channel. We are closing in on 100,000 subscribers. And I'm going to answer as many comments as I possibly can on this video. At least 200 of them. So go down there, ask any questions you have in the comment section. But thank you again. I appreciate you. I hope you have a great day and I hope we get to see you with the live stream tonight.